Welcome on this new playlist of the Finale 3D Masterclass. It's all about racks in this playlist, and we start with creating a simple mortar rack.
You may have seen some racks in the generic effects. The best way to find them is to filter for type. So let's add the type field as a selector. To do so, make a right-click to the column header type. Then click on Add this columns as selector. Now that type is added as selector, you can easily filter for racks. If you find racks that are identical with the racks that you are using for shows, then you can copy them to your MyFX or any other catalog that you have created. If they don't fit and you have other racks, you must start to define them. But before we begin, here is a very important tip for you. Don't try to create all your racks at once. Create only one or two at the beginning. Try use them in a demo show with only a few effects to see how the racking function is working. Please start with a maximum of one rack per caliber size. But now have a look how and where you can define racks. Let us define the following simple rack with 6 tubes and a size of 100 mm you see on the picture. You may guess it, you find the Create Racks entry within the Racks menu. Please click it and have a look at the dialog. There are a lot of entries there, so let's start with the rack structure and open it. You see that there are different possibilities here to choose for single shots, cake and candle rack. In our case we wanted to implement in simple mortar rack, so we choose the first entry mortar rack. The next field is the number of rows. Please enter a 1 here, because our simple rack consists only of one row with 6 tubes. Leave the Can Be Rotated checkbox checked, because that will give us the opportunity to rotate the rack later. The pre-wired pins is not relevant for us now. You must use this setting when your rack is assembled with a fixed module or slat where the channel numbers are fixed. Finale supports this kind of racks like the iShot plug and Fire system or your own pre-wired racks, but for this simple case we don't need it. The next setting is the maximum usable length per row. This setting is only for racks of kind like pyrolamas where you push the effects on a kind of rail to the rack. With this setting, Finale can calculate if an effect will fit on the rack or not. We will discuss that later when we define this kind of single-shot racks. Next field is the part number. You should enter a meaningful name here so that it is easy to search for racks of a special type and size. Let's SRAM 100 here. It should be the abbreviation racks, type mortar, size 100 mm. Next field is the collection field. Here you can choose the collection where you want to store the rack. Here it is a good idea to put all racks in only one collection, because when Finale is allocation the racks on the positions. The racks are only taken from the current collection that is set in the effects window when you start racking. So take care where you store your racks. Now we can go on with the row specifications. Because our rack is only a 1-row rack, we had to specify the veils only for the first row. So please enter the number of tubes here, in our example 6. Because the tubes in our rack had a fixed size of 100 mm, we must uncheck the Fits Any Size box. Instead we must specify the size of the tube in the Fits This Size field, so we type 100 mm here. The rows are not tilt or fanned angles, so we could leave the last 2 entries empty. Let's have a look at all our settings and control them. If everything is correct, then we can click Enter. We see nearly the same dialog as when we create an effect, and if we click OK and look at the specified collection, we will find our rack here. When we have a closer look at the row, we could only see the type is set to rack, almost all other technical fields except the size are blank. But let's unhide another attribute. Click on the gear menu in the effect window, and choose Hide or Unhide a column. Scroll down the selection until you find the attribute tubes. Click on it to make sure that it is activated. Now we see that this field is filled with our 6 tubes, while it is empty for effects.